This presentation here, as Anita said, is about renewable energy and the work that we did in our studio towards, well, there's people waiting. Okay, let them in. Okay, sorry about that. The work that we did in our studio towards creating a redefined definition for renewable energy in Newark. And so I'm going to begin by just going over this context diagram. And so within our studio, there were so many things that we wanted to focus on, we decided to break it into three different aspects, those aspects being economy, community, and sustainability. So in regards to economy, we were looking at things such as sustainable industry and supporting local businesses, bolstering Newark's up and coming businesses. For community, we were looking at things such as cooperatives and collective ownership of land, so land trust types of organizations. And then for sustainability, we have things such as resource cycling, urban agriculture, and what I'll be talking about today, renewable energy. And all of these three things come together, as you'll see with my contemporaries' presentations. So to begin with renewable energy, we're first going to look at a project that I worked on. And this project is titled 280 Vertebrae. It's this proposed cap on a stretch of Route 280 cutting through Newark. And this is just a bit of a conceptual exploration in renewable energy and how it can be applied to Newark's neighborhoods. And so the whole theme with this is, how are we capitalizing on our available space? How can we make it so that we have renewable energy in all of the infrastructure that we commonly use without it being obtrusive or completely deteriorating the use of the space? And the answer for this is embedded technology. We looked to create infrastructure that obviously served its purpose. So in the bottom here, a bench, over here, shade structures, but that also serve the dual purpose of having renewable energy. So you have solar panels up here, solar panels up there, and as you'll see later into the presentation, even things such as urban scale wind turbines that look like trees or solar road tiles. And so the whole idea here with this conceptual exploration is to help us realize that there's a lot of different ways in which we can manifest renewable energy in the spaces that we frequent daily without having it be super obtrusive, right? So obviously you're not going to have windmills just flying out of the ground in like Branch Brook Park. You know, that's definitely not the way to go. But it's to show that, okay, there is a niche for these kinds of applications. And with the conceptual tweaking and making things more suitable for the urban scale, we can actually have renewable energy all over the place. And that renewable energy can work towards providing people's houses, local infrastructure, traffic lights, street lights, anything that you can think about. And to continue that kind of notion, this right here is an initiative that was created by a fellow student in the studio, Jason Wong, and it is a branch of Community Solar. And so the whole premise of this proposal here is to create a subscription-based energy providing source. So instead of having something like PSE&G or Con Edison, it would be this subscription-based service. And the whole concept in a nutshell is that we would be to assess all of the buildings in Newark that are large scale, have flat tops, and are primed for the implementation of solar arrays, so large conglomerations of solar panels. And then once we figure out, okay, we have all these buildings that we can put solar panels, solar arrays on top of, we can then quantify how much would that cost, how much energy would that produce, how many people are willing to opt into an initiative or like as a subscription-based service, and then how much energy would we provide. And that would be a completely alternative way towards providing energy for people, and that would be solely based on renewable energy. And it would be put onto already existing infrastructure, and it would completely surround us. So the whole theme of integrating ourselves more with renewable energy. And these are just a couple of spaces that Jason was actually able to deduce. As you can see, a lot of them are schools and large-scale commercial buildings. So your ShopRites, your Home Depots, because they're large, they have buildings that are large and flat topped. This is not anywhere near the complete list of buildings that can be used. And they don't always have to be buildings. They can be large flat fields, what have you. So the opportunity for renewable energy is boundless. And to illustrate that, the second project we're going to look here is also by Jason Wong, and this is a proposal to buy the property that Tobias had mentioned, the red site at the corner of 3rd Street and Central Avenue. And so this project, what Jason had intended to do was to combine concepts of renewable energy found all throughout the world in an interactive, immersive renewable energy demonstration. And this is what he had come up with. And so when you're looking at this plan view, the best thing that you can do to kind of visualize the site is think of, off the top of my head, the way how rice is agriculturally farmed. So you have those rice terraces. It's very much like that. And you can see it a bit in this perspective. This design incorporates renewable energy all throughout it, while creating spaces for the local residents of that area to use. And just looking at this legend on the right side, we can see that there's playground space, kitchen space, eating area. But then in regards to renewable energy, we have a solar road tile demonstration on this strip right here. We have the solar panels as the shade structure on the bus stop. And then we also have these wind turbine trees, which I'll get to in just a moment because they're very cool. And all of that energy will be used to power this whole operation, in addition to whatever other infrastructure around that can be powered. And there's also energy storage units, so excess can be stored for whenever it needs to be used. And so this is very much indicative of what the future of renewable energy demonstrations can look like. We can integrate them into these spaces seamlessly, and they can begin to actually power these spaces so that we do not have to allocate any additional power towards that. And to help illustrate that, I'm going to go over two really interesting renewable energy infrastructure types that are within this design. The first one being these really cool looking wind turbine trees. So these trees are created by a French firm called New Wind, and each one of these little leaves you see, they call them arrow leaves, and they're actually super tiny wind turbines. And so they're very effective in what they do. With an average speed, with a speed of only 4.5 miles per hour, they're functional and they can begin to generate energy. And at approximately 8 miles per hour on an annual average, these little wind turbines can actually begin to become profitable. They're functionally silent, which is one of the biggest obstacles when having wind harvesting structures in urban environments. And they generate anywhere from 3,500 to 13,500 kilowatt hours of energy annually. And if you can see here, that's approximately 15 street lamps, 83% of the electrical consumption of a typical family household, or one electrical car for 10,168 miles a year. And that's above the average amount that someone drives a year. So the energy producing capabilities of these structures is insane. And they look kind of really cool. You know, they look, I'd be instantly drawn towards these if I were to see them. And so this is one of the up and coming kind of energy generating structures that can be incorporated into urban environments, in addition to this next structure, which are solar road tiles. And so these are tiles, they're in the name, they go right in the ground, and they're solar panels that function to replace the ground plane of sidewalks or roads. And one major project of this is Wattway, which was conducted in France. It was about a 0.6 mile or 1 kilometer stretch of road that was completely replaced and implemented with solar tiles. Because of unforeseen circumstances and the fact that this technology is always advancing, it didn't necessarily last all that well. And so it had like degradation issues and also issues with just like leaves falling on top, so maintenance and things of that nature. However, this was the first time something like this was ever done. And I think there's still a very bright future for this kind of technology in Newark, particularly if we take them off the roads and then we put them onto the sidewalks, because then you'll have to worry less about durability, and then you can also have an easier time with maintaining them. And with each passing year, this technology becomes cheaper, more resilient, and more affordable, more durable to stress. And so I think that this is a very promising aspect for not only this design proposal for REDS, but also for Newark and urban regions throughout the world, really. And then right here is just some exploded axonometrics. So just some diagrams that show you all of the constituent layers for these different kinds of renewable energy technologies. And that's just to help you realize that hey, these things are actually a bit more feasible than we think. It's not rocket science. It's just a matter of, the all important funding and also caring enough to provide energy to everybody, and lessening our impact on the environment, really, in regards to energy creation. And so when we think about all these things, it's only natural to think about REDS today and think about Newark's neighborhoods today. And with all these different kinds of concepts, mind you, renewable energy is an up and coming thing. And so innovation is sure to multiply exponentially, really, in the coming years. What does the future of REDS look like? REDS today, it may look like just an empty plot of land, but that rendering we saw did look very cool. And there's tons and tons and tons of different iterations of those renderings that can be applied to just this site. So the future of renewable energy is really bright. And I hope that the work that we conducted for this studio can be applied not only to this site, but Newark as a whole, as it would make things um, a lot more interesting and a lot more sustainable. So thank you.
This year's conference was made possible with the support of Host Cities Foundation, the Newark Community Food System, and the Rutgers Landscape Architecture Department. To learn more, visit us at www.sasglocal.com or follow us on our social media outlets.